It's a special family day. You know, you never know what you're going to see at the Indy 500. Just about everyone has a story to tell or a tradition to share. Well, tonight, one family invites Fox 59 to share a very special milestone with them. It is a story you will see only right here on Fox 59. For most, it's the roar of the engines.
I enjoy the race, but I really enjoy the Indy 500 because of the fanfare, the pageantry, the singing, the flyovers, the release of the balloons, all those things.
And Tom Stevens has been taking it all in since he was a young race fan.
I came to the race for the first time with my parents back in 1956 at age 13. And been coming ever since.
When he says ever since, he means every single year. This year marking his 59th consecutive race, and he has every single original ticket to prove it.
There's nothing on here from eBay. Those are my ticket stubs. So I'm proud of that.
His wife, on her 49th race, always makes sure Tom has his Indy 500 race shirt with the current year. A lot's changed since '56, and yet some things are still the same.
All the cars were front-engine cars. The snake pit was doing turn one.
The most important constant, though, family. As Tom sits with his wife, son Jerry, and grandson the day before the big Stevens Family 500 feast.
The night before the race, we have a big cookout here, and there'll be, currently getting 24 tickets, and we'll have almost that many people here for dinner on Saturday night. It's just, it's family.
And in the Stevens family, even the grandchildren know the rules.
This weekend's off limits.
You better not get married on race weekend, or the grandpa seat will be empty because I won't be there.
No, you'll find him right here, filling up these empty ticket spaces.
I've got some placeholders on my display here. Yeah, I plan on filling those up and beyond.
And you know, in all of these years, Tom says he's never met anyone else who has beat his consecutive streak of 59 races. And we love that Tom is sharing his 59th race with Fox 59. If you're headed to the race, look for Tom and the family. They always sit in the same place, section Box 13, Grandstand A, right there near the pit area.
And Tom, we could just talk, just ignore the camera the best you can.
All right.
If I do one of these, look in here, I'm just making sure you're still in frame. I promise you I'm still listening to you, okay?
Okay, no problem.
All right. Like I said, first question's the easiest. Your name and spell it for us.
Name's Tom Stevens, S-T-E-V-E-N-S.
All right, and this is kind of a big deal for you and your family, right? Why 59 straight years, correct?
59, yeah. And the reason it is so big a deal is because of the longevity. I mean, I'm sure that it's not a record, but I'm sure there's few people that can claim the same.
And what is it about the Indy 5 that has just kept you coming back year after year after year?
Well, most recently is probably the string of times I attend. The 500 for us is a family affair. I came to the race for the first time with my parents back in 1956 at age 13, and been coming ever since. And now, the night before the race, we have a big cookout here, and there'll be, currently getting 24 tickets, and we'll have almost that many people here for dinner on Saturday night. It's just, it's family.
And has anybody accompanied you for the majority of them? I mean, have there been races where you were by yourself? Things like, I mean, just who's been your most consistent companion?
Well, most consistent would have to be probably my wife. It'll be her 49th consecutive. She's been coming with me as long as we've been married.
Wow.
So her first race was in 1966.
So she's not missed one since she's been married to you?
That's correct.
And as far as your kids and everything, have they been coming to a lot of them too?
They do. Our daughter comes almost every year. She took last year off. She was in the adoption process, and she was in California bringing in our latest grandson, who just turned a year old. But son comes to very many, and now it's grandsons. My brother and his family comes, my sister's son and his family. So it's truly a family affair.
So I guess it would be fair to say that, you know, your kids, their kids, could say they've grown up at the Indy 500, you know? I mean,
Well,
it's kind of ingrained.
the month of May has always been a special month for us, yes.
Let's see. Can you take me back to any fond memories? I know you said, specific races. You're not really.
I'm definitely not a historian, but the things I like to remember is how much things have changed throughout the years. Back when I started coming in 1956, that's 2 years before A.J. Foyt was a rookie. But all the cars were front engine cars. There were no visors still on the track, so I remember that. The stake pit was still in turn one. So it's definitely changed a lot. By the time that wife started coming 10 years later, while most of the engines had migrated to the back, and almost, right along in that period, sometimes it's exclusively in the back.
Most people, if they've been doing something, consistently for 10, 15, 20 years, they think, man, I've been doing that a long time. Did you ever think you would get to darn near 60 years doing something every year?
Absolutely not, and there's kind of a story that goes along with that. Of course, all these tickets were actually bought by my dad, and for these first 10 years, starting at my age 13 through my high school and college years, my parents always bought the tickets. So after I was graduated from college and married to Carol, I started buying these tickets from Dad, and that is the point that I started saving all the ticket stubs. And sure, after I'd had a long string of races under my belt and had all these ticket stubs, I kind of wished that I'd had them all. And it's kind of interesting. 5 years ago, 2009, my mom went into a nursing home, and my brother and sister and I, we knew that she would never be going back home. And we were at her house getting ready for a estate sale. And we'd been there about 2 hours, and my sister says, "Hey, Tommy," sister calls me Tommy, says, "Look what I found." And in the back of a drawer in a little desk that they had there in the house, she pulled out a plastic wrapper that had these 10 ticket stubs in it.
Well, that had been a treat.
I cried. I'm almost crying now.
Well, so your folks hung on to them too, then?
Yeah, I used to get on Mom all the time about all the things she saved. Well, that is one thing that she saved that I find precious.
So when you were a boy, was racing important to your dad, that he got you started coming to the races and things like that?
It really wasn't. I remember becoming a fan back in the early 50s. Billy Vukovich, who won in 53 and 54. That's when I started listening to it on the radio, which is how things happened back in. But on May the 30th of 1955, family was in farmland at my aunt and uncle's house. Of course, my cousins, my brother and sister, they were all outside playing. My mom and dad and all my aunts and uncles were playing euchre in the front room, and I by myself was in listening to the radio. Now I got up and ran out and I said, "Bill Vukovich just went over the wall." And I don't think I've ever felt more ignored in my life. It was kind of, the reaction was, "Oh, he did, whose deal is it?" But later on found out that he was killed in that accident. And but my parents realized that how passionate I was for the race at that time, and so they brought me the very next year.
And I'm assuming, with all the faces that you've seen through the years and the changes at the track and Speedway in general, it's not so much for a lot of people about the race as it is the party. It's still about the race for you, is that right?
It's not about the race so much as it is, like I said before, it's the string that I got going that I don't want to break. But I enjoy the race, but I really enjoy the Indy 500 because of the fanfare. The pageantry, the parade, the celebrities, the singing, the flyovers, the release of the balloons. all those things.
Now, you guys sit in the track and watch the race, right?
Oh, yes.
Where is it that you normally sit?
We're in box 13, grandstand A. That's towards the south end of the front straightaway, towards the south end of the pit area.
Now, have you been there for a while, or?
Almost the whole time.
Really?
If you look at some of these early tickets, they were in like grandstand E, but for 50 plus years we've been right in the same location.
And just a nuts and bolts question: are you Hoosier native? Where are you from, and all that kind of stuff?
Hoosier born, Buckeye raised. When I was about 2 years old, my parents moved to a farm in Ohio, about 4 miles the other side of east of Richmond, Indiana.
Well, that's kind of makes it more impressive that you guys made the trip every summer.
Right. And of course, Carol and I have lived in Hancock County all of our married life, so we're close now.
So are you currently in, is it Greenfield, or?
We live just north of Greenfield, yes.
Through all the changes, you know, the upgrades to the track, you've seen so many different styles of cars come and go. What's some of the most significant changes that you've seen that have either been good or bad in your opinion?
Well, I'm thinking of a recent change, you know, that just happened within the last few years. You know, just a few years ago, cars were running fast, but if there was a car running at speed on the track, that car was in the groove. And if once a car was running fast in the groove, no one could pass them. In today's race, there are several places around that track where passing can take, and that really adds a lot of excitement to the race.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I would watch the race, and it would get boring at times.
Yeah.
Once somebody got out front, you never caught them. So it does make the racing more exciting.
The big screens help too. You can only see so much of the track, but if you're watching a certain car or something like that, why, you can switch your attention up to the screens a lot of times and tell what's going on around the track.
So obviously you have passion for the 500. Do you have any care for the Brickyard at all?
I've been to the Brickyard 4 or 5 times. I remember the very first time that I came, I was disappointed. And it wasn't so much disappointed in the race, I was disappointed by the lack of fanfare. I mean, it's just, they put the cars on the track, they threw the flag, and they're off. And I just miss everything that I'm so in love with as far as the pageantry of the 500.
Let's see. Can you just kind of sum up, you know, what this race, what this event has meant for you personally and your family, your kids, your grandkids, your wife, everybody? Just how big a part of your life it is?
Well, you're hitting right on it. It's all about family. And we've been camping here, I'm not sure, since the late 80s probably. And back in that time, parents were still coming with me, and I tell you, my dad, he really looked forward to it. He loved to talk, and he loved fires. And of course, back then we had a lot of fires. And if you look around and you don't see him, just look for the biggest fire you can find in the campground. That's where he'd be, because everybody was his friend. So.
And as far as the future, you're going to keep trucking, huh? Keep doing it?
I've got some placeholders on my display here. Yeah, I plan on filling those up and beyond. That's not up to me, but but I'm going to keep planning for it. That's right.
Excellent. Well, Tom, is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything you want to say? Any race memories? Anything at all that we didn't touch on?
No, I just, you know, when we've talked before you started filming here, you talked about the significance between Fox 59 and my 59th consecutive year, you know, so I just appreciate you here. I've been bringing this display for 5 years, and I love sharing it, and I appreciate you being here and talking about it.
Cool. Well, here's what I'm going to do now.
There's not any specific tickets, but, you know, like I already explained to you, starting with 1966 is when I actually started collecting the tickets, and I was so excited 5 years ago when we found these first 10 from 56 to 65 at my mom's house. When I found out that she had saved those for me, that brought it all together. So.
Well, and they're all in such mint condition too, just absolutely taken care of.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that's got collections of ticket stubs, but I'd say there's very few people that can show something like this and claim ownership to all of them. There's nothing on here from eBay. Those are my ticket stubs. So I'm proud of that.
When people pass by and say, you know, wow, what do you got here? What kind of things do you hear people say whenever they take a look at your stuff?
Well, I've had a couple guys stop by this weekend, and a couple of them have claimed to have been to races earlier than 1956, started before that. But in each case, there's several races that they've missed. You know, I haven't had anybody to stop by and claim that they've been to more consecutive races than I've been to. I'm sure there's some out there, but I haven't talked to them.